Well, happy Tuesday. We are back in the saddle. It has been a minute, took the month of May off. There were a lot of things, of course, happening. Graduations, Mother's Day, there was travel. So all the things were happening. And so it was a good segue for a break. And so we have taken a little bit of a hiatus from Tuesday Motivation and Conversation during the month of May, but we are back for the month of June and we are resuming. And so I am so excited to be back and to continue on a trajectory of what we have been sharing for 2025. And so tonight's not going to be any different. However, I'm going to deviate just slightly, but I want to remind you of the self work framework that we started in January this year, talking about making sure that we have ourselves prepared. We have clarity for us. We know who we are. We know what it is that we're called and purpose to do, knowing what our purpose is versus the gifts and the talents that we have and all of the things that we have the ability to do, but the channeling of knowing our lane for focusing on the thing that we're purposed to do. I talked about the first of the year. I started out talking about this self work framework, and I started to go through some of the various pieces and parts, and I'm going to pick up where I left off. Um, and sharing about that as relates to the five-piece framework. So that's self-reflection, self-awareness, self-knowledge, self-direction, and that gets us to good self-leadership. And that's our goal, is to get to the place that we are leading ourselves well. And when we're leading ourselves well, we can be an example to lead others well, encouraging and inspiring them to do the thing that they've been called and purposed to do. And so in this first piece of self-reflection, there are a lot of different components that are a part of self-reflection. And one of those things is being able to deal with the confrontation that we bring upon ourselves when we self-reflect, the traumas, the triggers, all the things that causes us most in general not to self-reflect. Well, in addition to this self-work framework, enveloped into this process, I want to deviate just slightly tonight and talk a little bit about this piece of private preparation. And the reason why I wanted to deviate and talk about that tonight is because the current plight of all the things that we're seeing happening in our country and the things that are happening around us. And I want to say, don't be fooled. Don't fall for the okie doke. Don't be fooled. This ain't nothing new. This is nothing we did not know. If you are a praying person, if you are a person who is spiritually connected, you are not surprised. You are probably taken back and like, I just can't believe they're going through with it, but this is no surprise. And it's a trap. Don't fall for the trap. I want to parenthetically encourage you on the opposite side of this to be taking this time to privately prepare yourself. This is a time for, I truly believe, and this is just something I'm sharing, and I hope that it's beneficial to those of you whose ears it's falling on tonight, and for those of you who will watch this replay and it will fall on your ear. Don't be fooled by the chaos and the distraction, because that's exactly what it is. This is a time we have now seen that we cannot depend on corporate, we can't depend on our government, we can't depend on any of the systems that have been previously put in place to help us move forward in whatever it is that our endeavors are. So, what do we have to do? We have to then take the opportunity to rely on the one thing that we know that is ours and nobody can take away from us. And that's the purpose for which God's called us to be here. So you need to take the opportunity, or may I suggest that you take this opportunity to search yourself for who that is and what that is. When I say who that is, who are you in this season? What is it that God has called and purposed you to do? Because if you're clear about that, you can be clear about the economy you have for yourself, because therein lies the opportunity to make provision for whatever it is your need may be in this season and time that we live in. What I mean by that is what God gave you, the gift, the ability, the talent, those skills, those expertise, the experience of life that you've had to this point, be it personal and or professional, has a purpose for somebody. Meaning you've gone through, you've learned what you learned, you've attained the skills you've attained, you've gone through all the things you've gone through for a purpose and a time such as this. And I want you to think about the story of Esther. Esther's whole existence had purpose. But while it had purpose, she had to be strategic because she was dealing with somewhat of what we're dealing with today. She was dealing with chaos. She was dealing with organized chaos. She was dealing with organized criminality. She was dealing with a whole lot of different things while yet being a person who was put in place to be there to save her own people. And so nobody's coming to save you. Nobody's coming to save us. We're going to have to do it ourselves with the help of God. And so I want to encourage you to take this time to do some private preparation. And when I say private, I mean that literally, because what we often do is we put everything on social media, we put everything out into the atmosphere, but there needs to be some preparation that you're doing right now in this time and in this season that's private. Meaning it's between you and God and a small circle, whomever that circle is, that's going to be a part of the initiation or the launching of what it is that God has given you to do. And I want you to consider the opportunity that you have to prepare yourself for public presentation down the road. That may be next month, that may be next year, that may be in the next 3 months. But if you take the time right now to privately prepare yourself, and because like I said, we've gotten to a point that everything got to be, on social media. We got to share everything. There comes a time when you don't need to share. There comes a time when things need to be private for a reason. And I want to encourage you tonight to take the opportunity to do some private preparation. Not only that, to do some praying privately, to do some journaling privately, to do some meditation privately, to do some private things that will prepare you for what's going to happen later in this year or in the coming years, because it's going to be important for what it is that God's going to do in us, through us, and for us as time progresses. The enemy doesn't have any new tricks. He got the same three: kill, steal, and destroy. That's all he got. That's all he got. That's all he's ever had. And so, what we have to do is that we have to realize that this is now time for us to take the opportunity to do some private preparation. That private preparation is going to be beneficial, I feel, for your vision going forward. It's going to be beneficial for manifestation for you going forward. It's going to be beneficial for the things that you have dreamed about, the things you have journaled about, the things that you have sought about. But you got to stay the course and you got to be patient, because, yeah, things are going to get a little rocky. They're going to get a little tight. They're going to get a little crazy. But if we can be patient enough to wait on God, and while we're waiting, prepare. Some private preparation, I believe, is in order for this season and for this time. And so, as you're going through this time and doing this private preparation, this is the time to do some self reflection. That's why I want to intertwine the self-work framework, because you got to work on you and you got to make sure that your building, it has a good foundation, and your structure, and I'm using that metaphorically because I'm talking about your life and where it is that you are in this time and this season. And you want to make sure that your building is ready for whatever storms come, and that you're privately prepared, because if you're privately prepared, you can pull out the stops and you can do the things that you need to do when challenges come, because they're going to come. When there is confusion, when there are confrontations, you will know how to handle it. You don't have to panic. You don't have to spaz out. What you got to do is you got to learn how to call on God. That's why we can't do this. Commercial church won't work in this season. It won't work, because you got to have some real prayers going up. You got to be doing some real conversing with God. You got to have some conversations that are deep, and you got to have some conversations that are honest, and you got to go to God with your whole heart, and you got to be prepared for what's getting ready to happen. So the commercial church won't work. So not that there's anything wrong with virtual church. There's nothing wrong with watching ministry online, but you got to make sure that that church is in you. Whatever that is, whoever that is, that you got to be internalizing that word, and you got to be applying it to yourself, because this is going to work both professionally and personally. And before we can be successful professionally, we got to be successful personally. So what does that mean? Some private preparation, some private praying, some private meditation, some private journaling. And I'm serious when I say you got to get this thing together, because if you don't, I'm telling you, it's going to catch you off guard. So your head got to be on a swivel spiritually. You got to watch things, you got to pay attention to things, you got to notate things, and everything has a purpose. And I'm saying to you, you have to keep your eyes open, keep your mouth closed, and keep your ears open. So doing a lot of talking is not necessary, but a lot of observation and channeling your thoughts and your emotions is going to be pivotal for this time that we're in. So you got to go back to that self-work framework. You got to do some self-reflection. What went well for me? What didn't go well? Where are my challenges? What do I need to work on? What are my weaknesses? What are my strengths? If my weaknesses is praying, I need to get to praying. I need to establish me a prayer um, process. I need to establish me a structure for praying. If it's journaling, I don't journal well. I don't do this. Whatever the time of meditation, because you need to take some time on a consistent basis and make sure that your relationship with God is sure. This is a time, as the old folks used to say, when you need to be sure that your anchor holds and grips a solid rock. Now that's a hymn, but it's also wisdom. You got to know who you are. You got to know where it is that you can draw strength from, and you got to know where your strength lies. And so this is going to require some private preparation. You got to be prepared. This is the time we go into the war room. And I know if you haven't seen the movie War Room, this is a good time to go watch it, because this is a time to be praying. This is a time to be preparing. This is a time to be studying. This is a time to be really watching your surroundings and all the things that are occurring and that are happening, and watching how God moves for you in your life and how he's covering you. This is the season for private preparation. Now, first of all, you want to do that self-reflection. Most of the times, that's the hardest part. When you can get past the self-reflection, get past your triggers, your traumas, and your transitions and the things that you've gone through, then transformation can start to take place. And that's going to take some real hard work. And that means you're going to have to deal with some things, come to light with some things, acknowledge some things, and I've been seeing across platforms, various people being open, being vulnerable, especially our men, and having hard conversations with other men, or having hard conversations, period, that have often been a struggle for us to have. And it has often kept us bound. It's kept us back. It's kept us from moving forward, because those emotions tend to keep us in bondage and mental incarceration. And so our spirits stay incarcerated, our mental state stays incarcerated, because we can't get past these issues that we've had emotionally, or whatever the traumas and triggers that have affected us over the course of our lives. Well, it's time for us to get past that and do some self-reflection and really confront those issues so that we can move on, ask ourselves those hard questions, answer those questions, and help ourselves to be, number two, more self-aware. It's going to be important to be self-aware, because that's going to help you to do number three, get more self-knowledge. When you become more self-aware, what your triggers are, what bothers you, things that get under your skin, then you want to plan a strategy for how, when these things occur, this is private preparation. How am I going to handle these things? How am I going to deal with them? What's going to be my pivot? What am I going to say? How am I going to handle conversations with my family, with my children, with my, siblings, or whatever the case may be? Whatever have been those challenges, you got to figure out, how am I going to handle it so it doesn't get me off track? It doesn't get me distracted. It doesn't get me off of my goal and where it is that I want to ultimately conclude. I don't want to get off track to the point that emotionally I become unhinged and unwired. Okay, so this gets us to good self knowledge because when we know ourselves better, we can handle ourselves better, right? Then we can make better decisions. We can make good decisions. So this whole process helps us to be better about how we handle who we are. So this gets us to then number four, good self direction. So we have self reflection, self awareness, self knowledge, and then self direction. This gets us good self direction because when we are real clear about who we are, it helps us to be more confident. And when we're more confident, we communicate better. And when we can communicate better, we can collaborate better, meaning we can collaborate with potential customers and clients better. We can collaborate with family and friends better. We can collaborate with associates better. We can collaborate better in our communities because we are sure and certain about who we are. And how do we do that? We take the time to do some private preparation. And it ultimately leads us to the fifth part of the self framework, which I'm going to reverse engineering and going through that process. And that's where we are. Self leadership is that fifth component. That's where we want to be because we want to be at a point that we are a good example for our children, our children's children, for our neighbors, for our friends, for our communities, for where it is that we operate, we function, and we flow. So I want to encourage you, especially if you are a business owner, this is the time to tap into private preparation because this private preparation is going to be good for future provision. And it's going to be a vital piece of you getting to the next level in your life, especially in this season. So I wanted to take the opportunity to encourage you tonight as we flow back into Tuesday motivation and conversation off of our break. I am so excited about what's happening. June is going to be a phenomenal month. Of course, this is the month that we celebrate fathers, so that's going to be pivotal. And I'm just excited about the things that are happening for our men in our communities and our churches, and especially in environments for which I am functioning. There are a couple of other things that are going to be happening this month. So I wanted to throw those things out before I forget. And that is June 21st, the Next Level Women's Conference. I'm so excited to be with Rosalind Davis and the other ladies on the panel for that amazing women's conference is sold out. So I'm so excited for what's going to happen in that place. I'm going to be talking about of course, something about clarity. So you definitely want to make sure that if you have registered for that conference, that you don't miss it. It's going to be an amazing time. But now, if you did not get a chance to register for that conference, there's going to be a seminar on July 12th, the Empowerment Circle Impact Seminar. And that is going to be another opportunity for you to engage. That's going to help you with some private preparation, whether it's personal and or professional. As a business owner, it's going to be an amazing seminar. It's only $47 to register for that. You can go to bridgetmoody.com. It's right there on the homepage, and you can click to get registered. Now, the caveat with that is you get the opportunity for any of the four coaches that's going to be on the panel that night. You can have a for $97 for the VIP registration, you can have a one-on-one coaching session for no additional charge. So that $97 gets you the admission as a VIP as well as a one-on-one coaching session. Can't beat that with a stick. It's going to be impactful, insightful. There's going to be vendors. It's going to be an amazing opportunity for you to harness this opportunity for private preparation. So I want to share with you to tell Lottie Dot and everybody, get registered for that. That is not a women's conference. That is a conference that's open to everybody. So men, women, young men, our entrepreneurs, Gen Zs, millennials, whatever category you fall in. And if you are in business, whether it's a side business or it is your main income stream, we encourage you to be a part of the Impact Circle seminar coming up on July 12th. That's a Saturday from 10 a.m. until 2 p.m. And of course, we will be doing definitely some open Q&A, and we'll be there for a good while to share with you one-on-one for those of you who do your VIP registration. Now, spaces are limited for that VIP registration for those coaching sessions. So you don't want to sleep on that. $97, you can't beat that with a stick in this time and season. I'm telling you, you want to make sure you go ahead and grab your seat. That's an investment that I'm telling you, you will get back over and over and over and over and over again. Okay, so general admission is 47 and VIP is $97. Before I go, I want to just give you a few additional items that I think is going to be important as you are doing your private preparation. And then I'll expound on these next week as we move forward. And then sometime this month, I'm going to be talking with that panel right here on Tuesday Motivation and Conversation. So you want to make sure that you stay tuned and look out for that. So a few things that you want to consider while you're doing private preparation for those of you that are business owners and or you are considering being a business owner and you're getting ready to tap into some things. Number one, audience analysis and tailoring. While you're doing private preparation for business, this is something you want to consider. Audience analysis and tailoring, meaning you want to really begin to do an analysis on your audience. Who is it that you are serving? Who is it that you're targeting to serve? Who is it that you really are tailoring your services to, right? That tailoring is really important, and a deep understanding of who your audience is going to be important when it comes to different demographics, your existing knowledge on your audience, subject matters, the interests of your audience, and the potential biases of your audience. This is going to be effective in helping you to do a few things: tailoring your content, tailoring your language, tailoring your examples that you use when you're trying, even your tone and everything, and when you're trying to resonate with your audience. So, audience analysis and tailoring, that's a thing that you want to definitely keep in mind. Number two, you want to keep in mind structured content development. You want to practice over and over what it is that you're talking about. You want to develop that content. It's really, really, really important that you take the opportunity to do this private preparation study, because this is going to help you. The private preparation is going to help you to build your confidence. It's going to help you to reduce your anxieties. It's going to help you to internalize the material for which you're building and developing. And then it's going to allow you to identify and iron out any awkward phrases, transitions, anything like that, so that when you're doing public presentation or when you're speaking or whatever it is that you're doing, you have already kind of, enveloped how you need to harness those things so that you can move through and be seamless with how you're doing your presentations. Then you want to anticipate any technicalities. So go into that technical side and learn as much as you can learn, brainstorm potential questions, all the kinds of things that go along with public presentation, things that can happen when it comes to your systems, your computer, your phone, all of your devices. Take the time to privately prepare, because this is what we do oftentimes. And so the reason why I'm sharing this is that I really want you to think about it, because a lot of times, and even myself, this is true, and I'm saying it because I've done it. We assume because we do a thing all the time that we got it together, and that is the very time that something occurs. And so when we don't do private preparation with our devices, with our connections, with our extensions, with our converters, all the various pieces and parts we use. And it used to be a time you just get a computer, plug it up, and you go. But now we have all the things that are part of our process, cameras and so forth and so on. So take the time to privately prepare for all of these areas, and I promise you, your public presentation will be a huge success. Listen, it's Bridget Moody, Tuesday Motivation and Conversation. I'm so glad to be back, and I enjoyed this segment with you on tonight. Share this with somebody if it was a blessing to you, and I'll see you next time right here, Tuesday Motivation and Conversation.